Welcome back to MJL 3764, collecting Elvis on vinyl. Today I thought we'd start off not with vinyl but with this set here, Elvis Back in Nashville. I'm sure most fans would have had this now in some format or another, or hoping to get it very shortly. I've obviously opted for the 4 CD over the 2 vinyl. Obviously it would be nice to have both, but for the time being I'm quite happy to have the 4 CD version, obviously because it has 82 tracks on it, and the double album just has the pick of this 4 CD set really. So as a completist I've obviously gone for this one, the 4 CD set, as I did with the previous release from Elvis in Nashville. It's still sealed at the moment. Haven't had time to open it, although it is on YouTube, so I've heard most of the tracks already. Very nice release if you can get it. Obviously the companion to this release from Elvis in Nashville, which I've only just actually got round to playing, to be honest. Not through lack of time, but I couldn't get the bloody CDs out of the box. And these ones are housed exactly the same as far as I know. But a good release if you can get it. In a different environment today. I'm in the, someone asked me recently, did I have an Elvis room? Every self-respecting Elvis fan has an Elvis room. Unfortunately this one's in a bit of a state at the moment. I'm just rejigging it all around, so when I get it all completely nicely done up, again I will show it off. As you can see, the records are, some of them are stacked on the floor at the moment. They were on shelves, but as you can see the shelves here are pretty much full, and the weight on the shelves was getting a bit worrying actually. So there's about 6, 7, maybe even 800 albums all in total of just Elvis. So trying to think of getting a different storage space. So at the moment it's a bit all over the shop. I know these records are not stacked correctly on the top. They're not going to stay there for long like that, I can assure you. But this is the Elvis room, as is most of the LPs. All the books and singles are mostly housed, and memorabilia are mostly housed elsewhere, because I just don't have the room. It's mostly an Elvis room, as you can see. There is some other artists. These are all just Elvis CDs here. They're all just Elvis. And all the records here are Elvis. Most of the pictures are Elvis. I have another one of these big pictures of a picture of the Aloha. Went with this one, famous picture. But it's just so big that I just don't have room for it in this room. And a few plates and bits and pieces. That old clock still going. Bought that in about 1978, I think, 79. And a few more up here. So yeah, when it's all nice and cleaned up, I'll show you it complete. All nice and fresh. These are all CDs by other artists. So there's quite a number there as well. So that's what you get when you've got a lot of stuff and it's only a small room. Anyway, when it's done I will show it. Let's get back to collecting Elvis on vinyl and let's look at some vinyl albums. I thought we'd start to take a look at some of the live albums issued between 1969 and 1977. I have included Elvis in Concert, even though it was released after August 77. It was actually issued about November 1977, but it was in the pipeline. So I've included that with these batch of albums. Now these are just purely live albums. I'm not going to include in this little mini series. I'm not going to include That's the Way It Is, which featured 4 live tracks, Full, which featured 1 live track, and Moody Blue, which features 4 live tracks. These 2 albums, Moody Blue and Fall, have already been featured on my channel anyway in previous videos. So let's pick one of these for today. Let's pick Elvis, recorded live on stage in Memphis. Elvis, recorded live on stage in Memphis, was recorded in March 1974, 20th of March, at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis. The album came out in 1974 also, as you can see from the picture on the front, which is a picture of Graceland on the front, and also a picture of Graceland on the back, the gates of Graceland. Don't know what you think of this cover, but even though Graceland has always been associated with Elvis since 1957, I don't like this cover. I think it's very bland, very boring, but at the time I think this would have been a lovely inner sleeve to make this an inner sleeve. That's my own opinion. It's probably one of my least favourite album covers, certainly of the 70s. It's only beaten by The Wonderful World of Christmas in terms of worst album covers for me, but I think it would have made a lovely inner sleeve. This copy's on the orange. The original was on the orange. Around this time, I believe we've already said on the video that there was less presses. By the time the mid-70s come, there were less presses. So this is one of the albums I've probably got, yeah, it's probably the least I've got of an album. It's 3 presses. They're all English. Obviously I need to get, there's French copies easily available in the UK of this album and USA copies, but to be honest, when this album come out, I didn't actually like it. It wasn't my favourite, it was my least favourite Elvis live album, for reasons we'll get into in a moment. But yeah, I only have 3 copies of this album. It was only pressed about 3 times in the UK anyway. So the first one's the orange one, the original one. The second copy is around 81, which was on the new black RCA. This copy is actually not even circular. If you look at the very top there, it's actually been cut wrong, but it doesn't affect the play. And the last copy I have in a nice glossy sleeve is of course the new German black copies, which come out around 85. With the barcode, and it's on the new German black label. Real nice copy this. So that was it. And the reason that I didn't think too much of this album was nothing to do with Elvis's vocals or anything. It was just the mix of the album. It sounded like they'd recorded the audience as well. It sounded like they'd mic'd up the audience, and it just detracts from the music as far as I'm concerned. I can see why they've done it. They probably thought it might make it a bit more atmospheric, but to me I didn't like it, and it wasn't the whole concert either. So I just didn't like the mix. I thought they just put Elvis's voice, just got drowned out, you know, by the audience reaction. So I didn't actually play this album a lot at all. When it did come out on CD in the late 80s, early 90s, I didn't even buy it. I spoke to a friend of mine who bought it, and I said, is it the same mix as the album? And he said yes, so I didn't touch it. So when it did eventually get the FTD treatment, I went for that one straight away, because it was the whole concert, and they took it back, stripped it back down, and you could hear all the music. I mean, the track on here, My Baby Left Me, you can hardly hear the instrumentation at all on it. But on the new FTD, everything's crystal clear. Elvis's vocals are superb. He really sung really well. And this concert to me has got a new lease of life when it was issued on the FTD. And of course, as I said, you got the full concert as well. So I only really appreciated this album when the FTD came out, although there was problems with that as well, which we'll take a look at now. There is also bootleg CDs out there. There's a couple. On this tour, Elvis played Memphis 4 times, twice on the 16th, once on the 17th, and once on the 20th of March. This is the March 17th show. On a bootleg, not in the best of quality, but a good show. And also you had this. Now this was the Falkbacks, the release. When this came out, we were told this would be the original mix of the album without the added applause. So I got this as soon as it came out, and then was wholly disappointed as only half of the show was like that. I think I haven't played it in a long while, but I think the second side of the album, it reverts back to the original album with all the overdubbed applause. So wasn't too happy with that when it came out. A little bit disappointing, but as I say, when it did come out on the FTD, it was in excellent sound quality. Unfortunately, some of the dialogue on this album was cut. It was actually on the original album, which is how we knew that some of it was missing, and also other little bits and pieces were missing, so this still wasn't complete. In fact, it wasn't complete until the Legacy edition, which, if I was advising anyone to get this album, that's the one to go for. That is a complete show with the full start of Help Me and all the dialogue. But this was a good release at the time. It's a collector's label. It should have been done 100%. Unfortunately, I don't think it was. But it's still excellent sound and a marked improvement on the original album as far as I was concerned, with a nice booklet, of course. And there's the Legacy edition, which also features another FTD actually. This was a double disc. Very well done. Legacy, just like the FTDs. Cover, another nice booklet. In a smaller form, obviously. But this featured the other FTD release, 48 Hours to Memphis, which, if you'd bought the Live on Stage in Memphis FTD, and then you'd bought the 48 Hours to Memphis as well, probably cost you a pretty penny, and then they issued it on the Legacy at a very cheap price. So some fans may have felt a little bit ripped off with this. Fortunately, I didn't have the 48 Hours to Memphis, so I bought this one straight away. They've tagged on some of the rehearsal songs for the Vegas gig in '74, which, well, I'd like to get extra tracks, but they just don't fit on here really, and I already had them tracks anyway. But you are getting value for money for this release. Of course, if you want to hear the original album as it was originally heard on CD, it's available on the box set. Elvis, recorded live on stage in Memphis, when issued in 1974, reached number 44 in the UK album charts. I'd like to apologise for all the vinyl fans out there. I'm sorry, this was more of a CD showing today more than vinyl. So until the next time, just remember, while there's music, life's no waste.